So yeah, just very very brief. Racial. I don't know. I don't know what post-racial is, and I know that it's not. It wasn't racially literate. Um, I don't know if it was necessarily colorblind, so I'm not sure about that. But we didn't talk about why English was the main language of instruction. Yeah.
Okay, so next question: do you believe schools played a unique role in your racial socialization compared to other public institutions? And also your understanding of language use, such as English is spoken in certain contexts, etc. Explain. It did. I think it played the biggest role of how I saw like racial socialization. I feel like we were I don't know, we were socialized to believe a lot of what, like, so okay, let me start all over. When I came out of school to come to UW, I feel like I thought very conservative. Like, I didn't think I was at all, like, but when I came here, started learning it, like going to classes and everything, I feel like I realized that, like, being there at school, learning from these from this small town, some of the things kind of stuck with me and made me think small, even though I thought I was thinking big. And when I came here, it just made me realize, like, being in a big city, learning all these things about culture, about just everything, the environment, everything just made me realize that there's this world is huge, and there's so much to learn, there's so much to be open-minded about, and it's really hard when you're in a small town. So I feel like this experience, like just even living here in Seattle and like learning from the university, definitely taught me a lot about just like how we're socialized, and yeah.
I think for me, yeah, that would be a big part. That's where I think we got some perspectives, I would say, maybe our initial, since coming from also a town that's very not diverse, so that you don't have a lot of diversity. It's either Mexican or white, and so you don't get to speak to, interact, learn about even the few Native American students that were there. We never really got to learn about them, their culture, and we did get to socialize in school, but that issue of race, of culture, was never even talked about. It was kind of my, I guess, first, the first place where I learned about Asian Americans or African Americans, and that was the perspective of the school and the history books. And yeah, also it was kind of because in school you kind of learned to kind of turn off. Like once you came into the school system, once you left home and came into the school system, you were something else. Like you were supposed to turn off what the language that you spoke at home with your parents, and so that's the first kind of place where we learn that when you come to school you turn it off, and then if you have recess with your friends you can turn it on, and then turn it off, and then once you leave school then you can speak your language, and then if you go to the grocery store or if you go to certain places you want to be speaking English because you want to be seen like
like you know what you're doing,
like instead of like, oh, you need a translator and stuff like that. So yeah, that's the first place where you kind of learned, okay, I have to turn it off in certain places. And the last one was finally, what did you learn from each other during this interview about the impact of school and your racial and language socialization experiences? How do you see this playing out when you are finally in the classroom?
Okay, so I learned that I feel like we both came from small towns, and like we have similar experiences. I feel like in seeing teachers that don't represent us. I feel like I learned from you how, like, I remembered from you too, like, because I feel like I felt a lot of things that you're mentioning too. Just how like we turn off kind of who we are and kind of become this like American person once we're in school, whatever that means. But and then there's just, it's kind of showing me how schools aren't really doing a good job, or at least weren't. I don't know about if they're working better on that now, but like they weren't inviting all cultures and thinking about how to incorporate ethnicity and everything into curriculum and all that, and just the diversity that we should be seeing in our curriculum. So I feel like when I am finally in the classroom, I think it's really hard to say like how I'm gonna go about things, but like I definitely want to be more aware of how I'm teaching my students, who they are, their backgrounds and stuff. Like I think it's very important. I think it's a big impact on how the students see you and how they're gonna see the world later on.
Yeah, so again, I think I would agree with you. We learned that we have very similar experiences coming from kind of small towns in Eastern Washington, mainly where it's like mainly white and Mexican. There isn't a lot of diversity there, and knowing, having the understanding that school is plays a big part into our understanding of race, of language. When is it okay to speak your language? When is it not? How do we view certain populations, like Native populations and African Americans? So it plays a big role into how we understand race and language. And then how do I? So just kind of understanding that. That students are, a lot of them just come, or maybe understanding where my students come from and understanding how they perceive language. Like, do they already know like when to turn it off and turn it on? Like, and then race, like what do they know about their culture? First of all, what do they know about other cultures? How do they see themselves in the community, within their home, within the school? Are they the only student of color? Are they, the only Asian student? How he or she sees himself. And so that kind of helping them navigate that, or understand, or being inclusive, or affirming them in who they are, and also teaching everyone else I would see, that's how I would see it played. Yeah.
All right, and that is all. Thank you.